So welcome all. I will turn on my video as soon as it has been enabled. I am Andrea Rother. I'm professor and head of the Environmental Health Division at the University of Cape Town in South Africa, and I will be facilitating today's session. You are all most welcome. And I encourage you to continue to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, country, and organization. So today's session, we're going to be looking at the importance of regional pesticide regulatory bodies for managing and reducing pesticide risks, which is really important to for us to collaborate together rather than to work in isolation only nationally. So before we begin, just to remind you, if you are a previous attendee or if you are new, that this is the pesticide discussion forum that is supported by funding from Sweden through the Swedish chemical agency CHEMI and being hosted by the University of Cape Town and specifically the Division of Environmental Health. We really are trying to promote dialogue and discussion between a wide range of stakeholders from different sectors. And to do this, we will facilitate a discussion in the chat. So this is not a webinar, but rather it's a discussion. So we will have a presentation shortly from our esteemed presenter today. You will then be encouraged to go into the chat. So if you can find the chat function, it's at the bottom of your Zoom where you're currently introducing yourselves. We will be responding to questions. There will also be poll questions throughout the discussion today, and therefore we encourage you to click on the link now from menti.com because that will be the link that we'll be using for the discussion. We are a non-partisan discussion forum, which means we may not agree with each other's opinions, but we will respect each other's opinions. When you do make a comment in the chat, it really helps the presenter if you put in your country or your organization. So we will now move on to the introduction of our presenter. So, excuse me, as I mentioned, we are very fortunate to have Kenneth Chipere with us today, who will be taking us through this important discussion. He's a principal research officer for pesticides in the Ministry of Lands, Agricultural, Fisheries, Water, and Rural Development in Zimbabwe. He's based in the Agriculture Research Innovation Development Directorate, which is part of the Research and Special Research Services Department. For the past 10 years, he's been working on technical evaluation of pesticides registration application dossiers, as well as pesticide use, pesticide management, pesticide residue related research, developing and implementing pesticide risk reduction initiatives, such as addressing highly hazardous pesticides related to risk, biopesticides promotion, and the sustainable use of pesticides training. Kenneth holds a Master's of Science in Food Security and Sustainable Agriculture. He has a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, and he also holds a postgraduate diploma from the University of Cape Town in Pesticide Risk Management. Kenneth, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to take us through this important discussion today. I encourage you, if you can, there we are, to turn your video on, and I hand the microphone over to you. Welcome. Kenneth, are you able to turn your video on? Tatum, perhaps you can assist. I can see you're speaking, Kenneth, but I can't hear you. Are you able to hear Kenneth Tatum?
Hi, Kenneth. You need to enable your audio. So if you look at your microphone option, there's an arrow that clicks up and you just need to enable your audio.
Thank you.
Kenneth, you can go ahead. Perhaps we can move on to the next slide. I see that Kenneth has dropped off. So if you just bear with us, we will be getting him back. In the meantime, you can continue to fill in the map. Perhaps, Tatum, we can go back to the map until Kenneth is back on. So if you would like to continue introducing yourselves in the chat with your name, country, and organization, thank you to those of you who have already. And also if you can continue to place a pin as to where you are currently located. I can see several people throughout Africa and Europe and Central and South America, from what I can see. You are all most welcome. Do we have Kenneth back with us?
Not yet, he lost internet connectivity, but he is trying to log back on.
Okay. It's fine. In the meantime, we'll just hold on for a minute, if you please bear with us. I see 13 of you, 14 of you have put a pin. We've got about 44 participants. Perhaps the rest of you could also put a pin. It's quite nice to see where you're coming from. And thank you for continuing to introduce yourselves in the chat. We're just waiting to get our speaker back. So in the meantime, if you can continue to introduce yourselves. Kenneth, I see you're back with us. I hand over to you. Kenneth, please go ahead. I'm not sure who's, yeah, there you are. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Tatum, can you mute yourself, please? Please go ahead, Kenneth.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we unfortunately are not hearing you properly.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Kenneth.
And it was for the 2020.
Hey, Kenneth, we're not hearing you properly.
Can you hear me now?
Unfortunately, it's vibrating, so it's not a clear. It's not a clear sound. Do you have headphones on?
What about now? Can you hear me clearly?
Perhaps you can get closer to the microphone.
No?
It's not so clear.
Can you hear me now? I can
yes.
hear you clearly.
You are not that clear, Kenneth, but if you can put headphones on or get closer to the microphone, please try again.
Okay, let me try again. What about, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, proceed, please.
Can you hear me clearly now? Okay, thank you.
capabilities. Yes, SAPREF is one of the regional bodies, regional bodies. It was formed in 2011. A group of regulators from the SADC met in Cape Town, and then they try to find ways to improve the way pesticide regulation is done in the, and also to try to deal with some of the challenges that these various pesticide regulators were meeting, that it was financial, technical challenges. So that was, or that began the birthplace of SADC. And the membership of SAPREF, South and Africa Pesticide Regulators Forum, consists of pesticide regulators, service managers, and also
Kenneth?
Who are
Kenneth, can I ask you?
Various policy levels. Now, the SAPREF has not only
Kenneth, can you hear me? Kenneth, we are not able to hear you. Tatum is going to phone you on WhatsApp, and she is going to broadcast your discussions, your presentation through WhatsApp.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we can't hear you. So Tatum is going to phone you on WhatsApp, and we're going to, if you can mute your mic, she's going to transmit your presentation through her mic.
Okay, it's fine.
If everyone can just bear with us, please. We apologize for the technology, the technical issues. You can appreciate Kenneth is in Zimbabwe, and for all of us, there is a challenge with the internet.
Okay,
So
Kenneth, you can go ahead.
are you ready?
Yes, Kenneth, are you with us? Are you muted on your side?
I'm muted. You can hear me now?
Perfect, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tata. Okay, as I've said earlier, SAPREF was formed in 2011 as a result of the need for regional harmonization and trying to plug up the challenges that the various pesticide regulators within the SADC region were facing when it came to pesticide risk management and pesticide regulation. So basically, the membership of SAPREF, or Southern Africa Pesticide Regulators Forum, consists of members within the SADC member states, which include pesticide regulators, pesticide risk managers, and other various people from key to pesticide and pest management policies at various levels. It also includes technical experts, which are also instrumental in its founding, that is from Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, University of Cape Town, KEMI, or Swedish Chemical Agents, and Africa Institute and SADC Secretariat later on. These are also part of key supporting institutions at SAPREF. The activities of SAPREF are basically coordinated by an executive committee, which is chaired by Botswana, deputized by Zambia, with Zimbabwe being the secretary and vice secretary being Mozambique and Treasury South Africa, and also Malawi and South Africa being also members. Can we go to the next slide?
Perfect.
Now, as I said earlier, one of the major objectives for forming of SAPREF was to establish and identify common issues in managing and reducing pesticide risks, as many of the countries in the SADC region lacked the necessary human and financial resources to address it. So the coming up and forming of SAPREF was key to solve this problem. And in 2014, SAPREF was endorsed as a sub-technical committee of the SADC SPS committee under the Plant Protection Technical Committee to deal and focus mostly on regional information exchange, the collaboration, the management of pesticides, just basically handling all pesticide-related issues within the SADC region, and especially focusing on the life cycle approach to sustainable pesticide management and risk reduction. We can also go to the next slide.
We're on the next slide.
Okay. Now, since 2011, up to date. SAPREF is managed to review the regional guidelines on the regulation of crop protection products in SADC member states, which was one to developed in 2011. It reviewed it and coming up with the one which was now taken a certain guideline, on pesticide management. Pesticides are being managed within the SADC region. The life cycle approach is taken into consideration. So this is one of the milestones that the SAPREF managed to do to date. There's also work in progress within the technical group within SAPREF, where as a pesticide reduction strategy is underway, which will guide the region again in sustainably managing the risks associated with the pesticides. There's also work in progress to develop harmonized guidelines for the registration of biopesticides, which is key because most of the countries within the SADC members, most of SADC member states, they do not have legislation for biopesticides. So this guideline will aid in sustainably coming up with a structure that we can adopt at country level, or will be used basically at regional level. So we'll see how the document will end up being. Will it be a legislation document or it will be a guideline? But in principle, it's just setting up a regional initiative where biopesticides are managed sustainably and registered in each and every member of the SADC countries. We can go to the next slide. Now, this has to do with the first question. Now, the first question is more to do with what is our understanding of regional pesticide body and what is its purpose. There are various regional pesticide bodies and there are various mandates, but in summary, their mandate is to promote harmonized pesticide regulation and risk reduction activities. And these various regulatory pesticide bodies, some are forums, some are legally binding, some are non-legally binding, just depending on the regions. And here I will speak a few of them. They're not all, but they speak. I've talked about SAPREF. We also have the EAC. We also have the OECD, the NFTA, European Union, and the SEALs. We can go to the next slide. Now, within the AAC, Eastern African Community, we have a technical group on pesticides, which takes its mandate from the Article 108 of the treaty for the establishment that provides for EAC partner states to adopt common mechanisms for ensuring food safety, efficacy, and potency of agricultural inputs, including chemicals, drugs, and vaccines, which in a manner, as I said earlier, the purpose of most of these regional groups, pesticide regulatory groups, is basically to find the best way to sustainably regulate pesticides and carry out risk reduction activities, pulling on resources from the region. We can go to the next slide. I've also talked to the issue of the OECD, which is an OECD pesticide program. You can go back to previous slide. The one on OECD. Now the OECD pesticide program, which is again another regional initiative, which was created in 1992, again with the purpose of increasing efficiency and effectiveness of pesticide regulation by OECD governments. So we see the drive of these regional bodies is to ensure the sustainable and effective utilization of the resources and the efficiency in reducing risks associated with the pesticides and harmonizing data, harmonizing methods, and assisting various governments within those member states we can go to next slide. We also see again another European Union, which again more or less have a system in which EFS evaluates active substance used in plant protection products, and the member states evaluate and authorize the product at national level, which is again another regional body, which is also key in the European Union. We can go to the next slide. Now we also see the North American Free Trade Agreement, where Canada, America, and Mexico also have their own regional grouping, which again focus on pesticide regulation and trade among these three countries, and also the issue of harmonization, work sharing, recognizing, of course, the different environmental, ecological, and the health objectives of NAFTA. So we can go to the next slide. We also see SEALS, which is again another regional body within the African member states. So we are seeing almost all these regional regulatory bodies that I have told you to, that I've discussed about and summarized, focused on one thing: pulling of resources together to effectively carry out pesticide risk reduction, reducing challenges that are inherently within the countries when it comes to resources, technical expertise, using a regional approach. Of course, as I said, they are betting, some are legally binding, some are just forums, some are just technical working group. But the main objective is to try to use the resources that they have together to leverage on the various technical capacities with these various countries, and then at the regional level, and also it is now cascading now to national level, sustainably, pesticide management, risk reduction. Thank you. This ends the summary of basically the background to question 1.
Thank you, Kenneth. And thank you very much for giving us the overview of what's happening within Southern African region, then throughout the Africa, as well as in other parts of the world. I think it's really helpful for participants to see how many regional bodies there are working on different aspects of pesticide management. So we now invite you all to go into the chat, where the first question is, what is your understanding of a regional pesticide regulatory body? What's its purpose? And if presentation perhaps missed a regional body that you would like to bring to everybody's attention, that would be also great. You could post that. So we will move into the chat, and there will also be a couple of poll questions. I'll see you in the chat room. Perhaps some of you would like to also post what your experiences have been as being a member in a regional body. You'll see that we have also posted a poll, so you can click on the link in the chat for menti.com, or you can always go to menti.com and put the code in that's at the top of your screen. So it's really asking you if you're aware of regional pesticide bodies. If you're not aware, Perhaps you could list in the chat which countries you're coming from where you're not aware. Kenneth, if you're able to see the chat, you are more than welcome to speak to anything, and you're welcome to speak to the poll as well if you like.
Okay. It seems the majority of the people living they know
Tatum, we're struggling to hear.
Kenneth, you're breaking up. Can you repeat that, please?
I think. Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yes, it's the majority of the people. I mean, they are aware of regional pest regulatory bodies, and it's also the thinking is more or less the same. Where you understand these are various organizations which are key to provision of technical information, coordination of pesticide regulation, composition of various key orders from one region to another, taking decision in collaboration together, of course, within specific countries' management system procedures. Of course, others have a question to what does regional mean? A good question from Iran. It depends on the content, the extent of regional. We already have information about this issue for you, the pesticide toxicologist. I mean, yes, not yet anything about regional pesticide regulations. Okay.
Thanks, Kenneth. I see many of you are saying that
Okay.
you're not aware or that there's a need for more awareness. Perhaps you can make comments to that. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Yes, I think generally the people have understanding of, at least to a certain degree, have read about regional bodies, even as shown on the poll, we have about 11 or so people knowing about it. And then less than half don't know about it, about 3 not sure. So it's more or less speaking the same that these are basically regional bodies that facilitate regulation in an integrated way to achieve one goal for the region.
If you'd like to respond to the poll, you can just click on the menti.com link that is in the chat. Or if you're already in menti.com, you can just move to the next question.
some interesting answers. Of particular interest, one from Iran, which Iran is not part of the regional pest application body, and at one time, was tried to somewhat able to. However, we're also seeing here various countries within understanding that there is separate. One from South Africa, not sure, or two so from South Africa, not sure. Then we have a couple of them alluding that they basically know SAPREF, which is within the SADC region. Pardon?
Hi, yes.
We seem to have lost Kenneth again, Tatum. Oh, there he is. He's back with us. So please do continue to post your responses in the chat. I see many of you are giving examples of regulatory bodies.
I'm not going to.
Thank you, Serge, for joining us. Unfortunately, our presenter, Kenneth, is having difficulties with his internet, and we do apologize. We are doing the best we can. You mentioned that Gabon is part of Central Africa and part of CPAC, which I believe Kenneth mentioned in his presentation. I can be corrected, but you have drawn attention to that. So that's very important. Thank you.
Okay. All right. From the inform the people just based on an understanding.
Thank you, Tendai, for alerting us to the fact that there are network issues in Zimbabwe, and it doesn't help that in South Africa there's power cuts taking place. But we are doing the best we can, and we do appreciate your patience and your understanding. It is important, if you can, continue to write your comments and engage with each other. I think what is really being noted is the fact that, for example, all Southern African countries that are part of the SADC community are actually members of SAPREF, which Kenneth talked about. But yet there seems to be many of you that are not aware that your country is actually a member. So I think this goes back to the point that was made by Michael, that there's a need for better awareness raising around regional collaboration with pesticide management. And I think it really, the onus needs to be then with the key people who are part of the regional bodies to transfer this information. We're just waiting to get our speaker back, and we will then move on to the next question.
On Zoom, I guess, so that I can. Okay. Now, question 2.
Please go ahead.
Focuses on what are the benefits that are associated with the outside or the overarching advantage of being part of this is it enables additional cooperation. It now enables various countries to access a greater pool of knowledge and the sources of pesticide management. Consider the needs of this experts of these resources. So when the regional body is formed and the country belongs to it, it has these resources available to it, whether the regional body is mandatory or it offers guidelines, but there is some function on capacity building, availability of knowledge, availability of resources, availability of technical experts. We also see there is harmonization of decisions, which again limits a certain degree to smuggling, where we see more or less countries within one region agreeing to register 1 or 2 products or agreeing to ban 1 or 2 products, which is a binding effect within the whole region. So in terms of smuggling, it's more or less cut out. We also see the advantages where regulator saves resources, where most of the work can be done at regional level. And then what is done at regional level, the assessment of the dossiers, the risk assessment, then what has been done at regional level, pulling these various resources together, then can be cascaded now to various countries and various levels, which again saves some money, not only for the regulators, but it's even also for the companies. One dossier submitted at regional level, then more or less payment probably done at one regional level, and then work sharing goes now to the various countries where they benefit from what has been done in Singapore. It also is advantage that there is harmonization of testing and assessment of agricultural pesticides, again, which goes to promotion of work sharing and risk reduction. So in summary, or generally what we get as a country or as a region is maximization of resources, maximization of technical expertise, leveraging of the various experts that are put together at regional level. I think this is more or less the advantages of being part of a regional board. But then the how part is now up to each and every country how they want to utilize this resource, how they want to utilize this regional cooperation for their maximum benefits of the nation and also of the region. I think in summary, this gives a bit of feedback on the benefits of being part of a regional board. Can you go to the next slide? Tata?
Are we on the next slide?
Okay. What are the challenges and how can this be overcome? Basically, one of the key issues that we see with the regional bodies is certified laboratories within the region. There are few, so which to a certain degree has a negative effects on the ability of the region to actually leverage on a regional assessment system. We also see the limited finances for regional regulators, which is again key to sustainability, key to achieving the objective of these regional bodies. But then at the same time, because they are regional, it's better, or the challenges to a certain degree, they are a bit more limited, where is a country, if it has limited financial resources, it more or less face totally to sustainably manage the pesticides and risk reduction. But then when it's done at regional level, when it's my resources may be limited, but there's a bit of work sharing of resources, there's a bit of work sharing of the little resources that they have, they can be focused on an area, and certain countries have certain specialities which they have, which can then enable them to focus on that area. At the end of the day, overcoming most of these challenges that that are challenge that present problems to how normal these regional pesticide regulatory bodies function. Go to the next slide. So in summary, these are some of the issues that have to do with the benefits of being part of a regional body, and also the challenges that hamper or negatively affect how this regional body should function in the most appropriate manner, or to be more effective. Okay, now I can go to question 2.
Thanks very much, Kenneth, for taking us through the benefits and the importance of regional collaboration. So I invite all of you now to move back into the chat, where we will address these 2 questions presented to you by Kenneth, and we'll also have some poll questions. So we'll see you in the chat room. Kenneth, you're welcome to stay on and speak to the postings if you like. You'll see we posted another poll. So while you continue answering question 2 in the chat, you can also go again to menti.com. If you're still in it, you can just move on to next question, or you can click on the link and you can answer how can a regional pesticide regulatory body reduce pesticide risks in your country or region, and you are able to choose more than one response if you like. Thank you. So for the 15 of you who've been responding to the poll, at the moment, you're seeing how pesticide regulatory bodies can reduce risks by encouraging regional collaboration on pesticide risk management and risk reduction. That seems to be the main one. And then by countering the illegal trade of pesticides, which is quite an issue for many countries. Not only within low and middle income countries, but also high income countries. Also by promoting the exchange of risk reduction information. I think that's really key. There is so much information out there, so many resources, and often countries aren't aware of them. So it's a really good way of sharing information, capacity building and training. Also by improving the sound management of pesticides, as well as issues related to biopesticides. So thank you to the 20 of you who've responded, and perhaps we will continue to get a few more responses. Kenneth, I don't know if you want to respond to any of the comments that you're seeing in the chat. So Kenneth, blessings. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I think I can make comment. Tatum?
Yeah, you
Please
can
go ahead. Please go ahead, Kenneth.
I think of that comes with I think one is the one to counter-effective of trade of pesticides, and also the basically also encouragement of regional collaboration of pesticide risk management, risk reduction, which again is one of the objectives of why most of these regional bodies come into existence or were developed, meaning the need basically is there. But then probably my question that will also pose is what level of participation or more or less these various countries put into these regional bodies where their participation is needed, where their input is needed, or is only that they see the need, but then they do not fully utilize that which they have at their disposal. You will see again the challenges, talking about the of challenges, and you know, as local financial resources, infrastructure. Some pesticide and pesticides. So pesticide management, considering the high risks associated with the unsustainable use of synthetic pesticide. But we are saying here that these regional groupings, they can actually play a key part in sound management of pesticides and biopesticides, which also alludes to what we've been discussing before. We can also increase count capacity.
We have about 5 minutes left for question 2, so please continue posting your comments, which are most informative and useful. You can still comment on the poll if you want. The link is in the chat. You can see from the results that it's still the leading is encouraging regional collaboration. It would be interesting to know if you're also doing data sharing in terms of risk assessments. So there is a move to have the mutual acceptance of data. There's data that's coming out, for example, from the EU that can be used in many of our countries. The question is if one country within a region also is doing risk assessment for like ecotoxicology or toxicology data collection, would it be useful for that to be used within a region as well? Because those studies are very expensive. Suresh, you raised the point about the challenges for smaller states who might not have high pesticide use and that it might not be seen as a priority. I think we see in general in many low and middle income countries that pesticide and chemical use is often not a priority. And so by being part of a regional body, it's an opportunity to see perhaps what some of the issues are and how it could affect even countries that don't have high pesticide use, but might be affected by transboundary movement or drift. So thank you for that comment. So we have lost our speaker at the moment. Again, apologies with the technology and the internet issues he's experienced in Zimbabwe. I will just read through his slides and hopefully he'll be back then to be able to respond to any comments or questions you have. So the one point that he wanted to raise about regional collaboration with sustainable financing. And of course, this is an issue that keeps coming up again and again, not only for pesticide management, but chemicals management, and how this is related to institutional capacity and really is the key for sound pesticide management and achieving or trying to achieve the sustainable development goals. So he refers to having an integrated approach to financing regional bodies, and some of you who are aware of the discussions that are taking place at the moment at the international level in relation to SciChem, for example, there has been a draft, I believe UNEP has put it forward, a draft document on what an integrated approach to financing could look like. So it has a couple of objectives. So one of the objectives to integrated approach to financing is refers to what they call mainstreaming in national and regional budgets to develop assistance plans. So this means actually putting within your budgets, your national budgets, a process whereby perhaps a levy can be collected on pesticides or some other way, taxes on pesticides, that this money can then be put back into managing pesticide risks. So either through monitoring or registering those payments so that there really is a flow of finances. Then the other aspect to an integrated approach to financing regional bodies is looking at the industry's role and holding industry accountable for their products that they're producing. So again, having taxes or fees that would then go back into a dedicated fund nationally. You could also have it regionally. Regional bodies often struggle to finance their activities. So this perhaps could be a mechanism if you have a rotating chairmanship, for example, perhaps you could have a rotating fund. I mean, it's complicated to put the taxes and fees in one particular fund and then have access to it. So those are the kind of ideas, some of the ideas that are being discussed in terms of an integrated approach to financing. Then Kenneth was referring in terms of capacity building to look at having more synergies and learning platforms that could be linked to the regional bodies. So for example, with the SAPRA, there is a platform where members can go in and find data of what pesticides are registered in other countries, what those that have identified highly hazardous pesticides, for example, what legislation is available. So really being able to access detailed information about the other countries. And his third point was to complete technical and financial participation from member states to the regional groupings obligations. Next slide, please. So I don't see that Kenneth has been able to rejoin us. So I'll take you into question 3, which is what mechanisms, so that is focusing on financing, technical assistance for capacity building, should be put in place by regional regulatory bodies to ensure that their activities are carried out effectively. So what perhaps would be different at the regional level versus the national level, or what could one duplicate to support the national work? So we'll move into the chat to respond to this question, and there'll also be a poll. I'll see you in the chat. Kenneth, I believe you're back with us. I don't know if you'd like to make any further comments on the background to question 3.
I'm trying to connect on. So that I can see the response.
Unfortunately, we're struggling to hear you.
There's nothing that is currently visible from this side. I can't see anything. I'm only seeing the black screen. Yeah, I cannot see the slide, which is question 3, 20 minutes of discussion.
Yes, I've presented the slides for you. I don't know if you wanted to make any other comments. I've already presented them in the interest of time. But if you would like to make an additional comment, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you can have a look what's in the chat and respond to that.
I think I should involve chat so that also keeps time. Right.
So Ahmed from Iran is making the comment about close collaboration with various intergovernmental organizations. And I think, you know, financing, as we said earlier on, is a very complex issue, but it is really the cornerstone of pesticide and chemical management, both nationally, regionally, and internationally. And I think that's why there's this effort to have an integrated approach that countries can agree to. I think, though, you have to have a different integrated approach for financing globally, and a different one for regions, and a different one for nationally. But I think all of them need to include accountability of the industry and how to incorporate that. Many of you are aware at the moment that SciChem has just put a call out again for the special program. So that is a financing mechanism for the implementation of some of these conventions. But the issue, of course, is that it's not sustainable unless you use that kind of financing mechanism for sustainability. And I think that's the key about financing is it can't be a once-off. It has to be a sustainable mechanism. You know, the registration of pesticides is very expensive, and most low and middle income countries aren't charging fees that are equivalent to what's being charged in the EU or in the US or Canada. And so really looking at how can one improve the aspect of both registering pesticides, but post-registration, as well as monitoring health effects, environmental impacts, and disposal. So those are just some of my thoughts.
I think one of the key issues that are coming up from the chart is basically the issue of resources, issue of risk assessment. It's an area that the participants see as priority areas that need to some resources, some capacity building, drafting of technical TORs, so for financial for financing. So we see the issue of financing is key. Okay, complex in its own kind, but then it has to be tackled sustainably, because without the appropriate financial mechanisms in place, the objective with which these regional groups were formed will not be achieved. So the financial mechanisms, I mean, as I said in the presentation, an integrated approach would aid, where you utilize national budget, also regional budgets, also donor funding. And as Professor said, special project, GEF fund. So these are some of the areas that can assist. We will also see the issue of regional capacity for enforcement and infrastructure and incentives. And I'm seeing that the incentive is coming to aid in those who are working within the regional program. Risk assessment or relatives, some of the areas that I'm seeing as key to priority areas: legal drafting, regulation, capacity building, registration. So more or less, these are issues that are revolving around financing, capacity building in various forms and norms.
Kenneth, are you able to see the responses to the poll on the screen? Would you like to comment any further on any?
Yes, a very good point. We're operating. Okay, I'm saying the very good point that's coming from Sintlo, where he's talking of joint audit operation. with all pesticide regulatory authorities. I mean, it's one way these regional bodies can be improved or can find between each other better improvement.
We lost Kenneth, but we're just getting him back online again.
There's still a vibrant discussion going on in the chat around the third question, so please thank you for that. And do continue to post your comments and questions to each other. Some of you may be aware that every 2 weeks, the University of Cape Town produces a Pesticide Weekly newsletter. If you have not signed up for the newsletter and you would like to get the information from it, the link will be provided for you now in the chat for you to join. And basically it provides sort of latest research, it has an editorial, it has various resources that you can use, and it's a fantastic resource for capacity building, both within your country, but within regions. And you can see Tatum has posted an example of some information that was done on a series looking at regional pesticide regulatory bodies. So I encourage you both to look at the resources that she has posted, but also to join the Pesticide Weekly. I see in the poll that some of you are indicating that a regional pesticide regulatory body is useful for drafting legislation. And I wonder how many of you are using the FAO-WHO International Code of Conduct on pesticide management, both within your regions and nationally as a guide for your legislation. Perhaps you can comment on that in the chat. Another important comment that's being raised in the poll is about post-registration enforcement. I think that is really the key thing which was raised also in the chat. How do you collaborate together, not only regionally, but how do you collaborate with different government departments, whether it's customs or agriculture or environment or health, for the enforcement of legislation, particularly as many borders are porous and cross-border movement of illegal chemicals, pesticides is a problem.
Thank you again. I think the summary of more or less of this presentation and these needs of this issue of the fine, we see pulling together of resources.
Andrea, we lost Guinness.
Yeah, I'm busy typing in the chat. Given that we are struggling today with our connections with our presenter, I will invite if anyone would like to verbally speak to the topic, just to have a short intervention to make any key points. If you would, I know many of you are busy typing, but if anyone would like to verbally make an intervention, you can raise your hand. So other comments that are being raised in the poll are around capacity building. So capacity building is often mentioned, both technical and human capacity building. And I think it's important to unpack that within a region. How can you do capacity building? So is it offering training to the regional groups? Is it offering support, legal support in terms of developing text? Is it academic programs like the ones we're offering at the University of Cape Town on pesticide risk management and the Masters on Chemicals Risk Management? So it's really important to understand what aspect of capacity building can a regional body do to support and strengthen the national work as well. So I see, Tom, you say all of those. Have I missed any perhaps that you think are key? Tatum has posted the link for our WhatsApp group for this pesticide discussion forum. You can just click on it if you are not already part of the WhatsApp group, and you will automatically become a member. We do some capacity information sharing through the WhatsApp group. So we let you know about the discussions. We share possible training and webinars, academic programs, etc. I have also posted the link in the chat for UNEP's work on the approach to integrated financing and also sustainable financing. It is much broader for chemicals, but obviously relevant for pesticides. And I would encourage all of you to have a look at it if you haven't already, and to see what aspects you could bring into the regional bodies that you are part of. As well as how can you mainstream sustainable financing within your own country. And often when we talk about sustainable financing, or when we talk about financing, unless you have one organization in your country that's overseeing everything to do with pesticides and is representing all the sectors, often you'll have different government departments doing different aspects of pesticide regulation, registration, and enforcement. So the question is then, how can that financing be shared? How can it be shared with health for surveillance, and agriculture for perhaps registering, and environment for looking at disposal? And I think that's an important issue to raise also within regional bodies. So Tom, you're reiterating a comment that others have also said about the visibility of regulatory bodies within the region, regulatory bodies perhaps within nationally, but also within the region. And I really think the onus is on those regional bodies to either have websites or have some sort of platform where they can be contacted. So for example, SAPREF has a page on the SADC website. It showcases the work that it's doing there. I believe the regional pesticide risk management guideline they developed is also posted there on the website. So really to encourage regional bodies to showcase themselves a bit more. So we're coming to the end of our discussion, and I want to thank you all for your patience and persevering. We don't always experience technical problems, but today we definitely had challenges, and we thank you for your support and perseverance, and particularly our presenter, who has had many difficulties. So Kenneth, thank you very much for persevering and for presenting on a very important topic on regional pesticide management. And I hope many of you will take some of these issues forward and you'll use the opportunity. There'll be a digest that comes out of this discussion. If you're a member, if you've signed up, or if you're on the WhatsApp group, you will receive a copy of the digest, and hopefully you will use that also as drawing attention and awareness to others about regional bodies that are relevant for your countries. I'd like to thank Tatum in the background, who worked very hard today to overcome some of the technical hurdles we had. You can always contact her if you need more information. Please take note of all the resources that have been posted for you. I'd also again like to thank the Sweden through the Swedish Chemical Authority for funding the work that we do. Just a reminder that our next discussion, I have to move the polls. Our next discussion will be on the 1st of September at 2 o'clock South African time, so GMT +2. And we're particularly going to be looking at the issue around pesticides and pesticide suicides. There's new guidelines coming out. WHO has been working on this topic, as well as the Center for the Prevention of Pesticide Suicides. So if you please join us for that, make note of it, and we will be sending notifications both through email as well as on the WhatsApp group. So thank you again to our presenter, to you, our participants, to Tatum, and I hope you have got some important information today. Take a moment to fill in the evaluation. We'll leave the Zoom site open so that you can do that. Stay safe, and I wish you an enjoyable rest of your day. Bye for now.